Okay, so problem of the day asked, what is 80% of 20? And again, we've talked about this before, but there's lots of different ways to do percent problems. I can think of at least three off the top of my head. What I'm going to use is what's known as the direct translation method. Um, Basically, the idea here is that just like you can translate um, Spanish into English or French into German, I can translate between some of these English words and math and turn them into math symbols so that the problem, once I translate it, will tell me what to do. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here. The first thing I need to do in order to deal with this direct translation method is realize what percent means. So literally, if you break down the word percent, per means divide. And cent, like a century or centurion, means 100. So literally, percent means divided by 100. So if I say 80%, I'm saying 80 divided by 100, or 80 out of 100. And because 100 is just a 1 with some zeros after it, it does a really nice thing when we divide by it. All that's going to happen is we're going to lose 2 decimal places. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start the decimal place where it's at. We don't see it, so it's at the back of the number. And we're going to jump it once, twice. Because we divided by 100, which has 2 zeros, we are going to lose 2 decimal places when we do the division here. So now I've just translated the percent sign what it means. It means divide by 100, and I did that, dividing by 100. So now that means 80% is the same as 0.8. Now you might be saying, Kate, why isn't it the same as 0.80? And it is the same as 0.80, but I'm a lazy mathematician and I know trailing zeros don't matter. They don't do anything. They just complicate my problem, give me extra rows of numbers. I don't need it, so I'm not going to include it. So 0.80% is the same as 0.8. Again, I dropped the trailing zero. Okay, so we dealt with that. 80% turns into 0.8 by translating the percent sign. Now, let's translate the word of. What does of mean? Well, a lot of students don't realize it, but the word of can be directly translated to multiplication in math. Of is multiplication. Anytime you see the word of between two numbers, you can just turn that into a time sign. And now, of course, $20 was already in, as I call it, the language of math. $20 is $20 all day long. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 0.8 times 20. Now, you can do this in your head. You can do it in a calculator. You can, I don't know, call your girlfriend and ask her what the answer is. I don't really care how you get this answer. If it were in the first 5 problems of the GED, you would not have a calculator, however. So let us make sure that we know how to do this by hand. So I'm going to put the 20 on top. I'm going to put the 0.8 on the bottom, and I am multiplying. Now notice, I don't bother to line up the decimal places, add extra zeros. None of that matters when you're multiplying. You know, we've always been able to multiply any number times any number. Size doesn't matter, type doesn't matter. And so because of that, it doesn't matter if you line up decimals or not when you're multiplying. And here we go. 8 times 0 is, of course, 0. And that's not a 0. And 8 times 2 is, of course, 16. And so I get this answer 160. But now that I've done my multiplication, it's time to consider how many decimal places should be in the problem. So the rule for multiplication is count up the number of decimal places in the problem, and it should be equal to the number in the answer. And if you look, there was only 1 decimal place in this problem. That's past the decimal here. On the right side of the decimal, we have an 8. That's 1 decimal place. So there'll be 1 in the answer. So I'm going to come on the other side of this 0 here and drop down my decimal point. So I get 16.0. And once again, it's helpful to know that trailing zeros are not necessary. Why say 16.0 or 16 and no tenths when I could just say 16? Now, of course, this was 8% of $20, not 20 fish or 20 pumpkins or 20 of anything else. And so my answer is going to be in dollars. $16. And that is our final answer. I'm going to circle it.